Good afternoon, Whisperers, and welcome to another powerful episode of Whispers in a Bottle Grown Talk Cocktail Fridays. I am your host, Sonia LeRae. I'm a lifestyle relationship counselor, fashion psychologist, and holistic health and wellness practitioner. Oh my goodness, Whisperers, it is so good to be back in our safe zone in the Whisperers Lounge. I hope you have had such a great week. I have to tell you, my week has been so good. And I have some things that I'm going to share with you at the end of the show, too. So please get ready because I'm telling you, the good news is coming in. And sometimes, as people, we need to share our wins as well. So, Whisperers, you know, I love to answer your questions. And Podbean has placed a live chat into each of our episodes. So please feel free to drop your questions or your comments in there because you know your girl loves to monitor a great chat box. Don't forget, I want you to also make sure that you're subscribed to our fabulous newsletter, The Whisperers Exchange, because you know we have some dynamic things that are going to be coming up. Plus, you want to get the featured cocktail or the mocktail of the hour. And I tell you, when we're having powerful discussions like this, we want to have our cocktail or our mocktail so we can kick back and enjoy and listen to it. So, are you ready to get into today's powerful topic, which is the exchange rate of empathy, understanding others? Now, Whisperers, you know, I like to start all of our discussions with a clear meaning or definition. So, this isn't any different. So, we're going to get the meaning or the definition of empathy. Now, that's a powerful word. So listen to the definition. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Let me give it to you again. The ability, empathy, we're getting the meaning of empathy. I'm sorry. The ability to understand and share the feelings of others. So, whisperers, you know, empathy is often, regarded as the bridge to human connection. And it is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. It's our ability and our capability of tapping into one another. And it goes beyond sympathy, even pity. It's the act of stepping into someone else's shoes and viewing the world or the viewpoint or their perspective from their view, that perspective or that bird's eye view from another person's dynamic. See, Whispers, empathy pays dividends in relationships, in leadership, and even in your personal growth by creating strong emotional bonds, which in turn means that they also help us in reducing conflicts and they even help us to foster those collaborations. And fostering collaborations is something that is big, especially if we are doing things that we're trying to build on our intellectual property, or when we're trying to move ourselves forward in a place in a space that has really allowed us to pivot and to change the things that we're doing or how we're building on things. That is what is so important for us. So, in today's fast paced and often disconnected world, believe it or not, empathy stands as the currency that builds lasting connections and mutual understanding. But do you realize that empathy is actually in a decrease? Empathy is actually at a lower volume than it normally is in today's world. And you can see it by the things and by how people are moving, reacting, and handling each other, even. So it's imperative of us to really realize what the exchange rate of empathy is. So when we say exchange rate, if you think about it as far as it goes, our way of looking at finances. And a lot of times when we say certain topics or certain things, it makes us look into a financial standpoint. And we know the exchange rate is a lot of things, even in the stock market. How much is it going to trade for? What is it going for? So it's the same thing that we're going to tap in here. So I want to look at the value of empathy in our human interactions. And notice how I'm placing the words in this discussion and even how I'm even moving in it. I want to take my time with it because this is a topic that I think we need in this space and place, and especially at this time. So, see, the concept of empathy might sound soft or secondary to achieving goals in our result driven society, but how I like to look at facts is by research consistently shows that empathy is one of the most critical factors in building trust, in fostering loyalty, and enhancing relationships, interpersonal connections. So, see, it's a bridge. Empathy is a bridge. So, whisperers, empathy doesn't just strengthen our connections. Doesn't just strengthen it. It creates literal environments where individuals feel valued. They feel understood. They're even motivated to contribute and even to pour in such a dynamic way that when it is just removed or extracted, it loses that appreciative value. See, you realize that empathy is really a superpower. Now, I know you wasn't expecting me to say that, but yes, it is a dynamic superpower. See, the center of our decision or our decisions is understanding the exchange rate, how this emotional currency is earned, even how it's invested, and how it's yielded significant returns in the form of a deeper relationship and meaningful connections. So, be it personal relationships or your professional settings, empathy remains a transformative tool. So, you can hear the value that empathy has. You can even see the superpower that empathy has. And I'm not talking about a superpower that has a cape and a big, markup on the chest, or maybe it has a shield. I'm speaking of dynamics in a way that is connecting soul driven responses to connect to authenticity. There's that word. There's that dynamic word. See, when something is authentic, it means that it has a face and a face value that is just beyond compare. So let's get into our master keys. And I like to give you master keys in all of my discussions. And like I told you, I'm really pacing myself in this discussion because this is a big topic. And for us to really understand it, we need master keys that are going to be so powerful that when they open up the corridors, the hallways, the secret compartments of our hearts and our mind, they're actually now opening up little chambers and different little avenues that will help us to really connect this dynamic quality of empathy. Because each time that we are moving in a space and place and we're given master keys, and each key goes with another key that we may have gotten from last week, the week before, maybe even last year, you realize that it's building upon something dynamic that we get to pivot, change, and mold into something dynamic for ourselves, but also imprints upon others. That's how powerful this is. So let's get into our first master key. And that's none other than listening with intent. Wait a minute, what did I just say? Listening with intent. That's the gateway to understanding. You like that? See, empathy begins with listening. And listening is a skill, and it requires that you actively do it. So that means that it requires action on our parts. See, listening intent means that you are really, really tuned in. We're not just hearing it. We're not just looking and it's just words that are just vibrating. Like you ever watch the Peanuts? I'm a huge Peanuts fan. And, Charlie Brown's teacher, she would be talking and all of a sudden you would hear wah, 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 wah. See, we can't listen like that. We can't intently listen like that when people are speaking to us, that we only hear the womp womp. We don't really get to see what they're saying and feel the texture. We don't really take away from that embracing of what they're saying. See, whispers when with intent, it means that we are with an aim and purpose. Oh, that's one of my favorites. If I cannot tell you anything else, intention is so important to me because it requires more than just a passive acknowledgement. It involves giving someone your full presence and attention. Now, when we are present, that means that we are here and now. We are in that moment. We're not sitting there thinking, oh, yeah, I forgot I got to put this on my shopping list. I forgot to put tofu on there. Oh, yeah, I got to get the dog pedicured and everything else. And we're not doing that. We are really in the moment. We are listening and we are giving them our undivided attention. See, active listening creates a space where others feel safe. They feel valued. Because see, when we active listen, we're doing that active listening. We even can say certain things back to them. Now, wait a minute. Let me just make sure I have this clear. You said XYZ. Well, no, I didn't mean it. Okay, well, tell me again. I'm sorry, I missed that point. Say it again. See, that tells the person, I am really listening to you. And this form of listening allows us to even go deeper in our understanding. It allows us to go deeper in the space and place that empathy needs to maybe weigh in. And it even allows us to speak into the unspoken spaces. It allows us to even fortify the unspoken spaces. Now, how powerful is that? So, why would I even say that that's a powerful thing? Because sometimes we have to be in that small area, in that unspoken space and place that allows us to come in, that we can show up empathetic. So, what are some keys and steps to mastering that intentional listening? Well, here's your secondary keys. See, sometimes we have to have a master key, but we need a secondary key to turn those tumblers. So we're able to really activate what we want. So it means that you have to pause to be present. Now, see, I teach all the time, and even with my clients, in powerful discussions like this, there is power in pausing. And pausing clears your mind of distractions. And it allows you to focus on the person speaking to you. Because, see, we're not going to be distracted by anything else. We're not going to be looking at our phone, scrolling through. We're not going to be, oh, yeah, I got to answer that email. No, we're focused on that person. And this demonstrates that you value their thoughts and their feelings. Now, how powerful do you think that is in that space? Especially if there's a situation that there's a little conflict and you're present, you are present. You're not present in a way that is like, okay, yeah, as soon as she finishes or he finishes, wait till you hear what I got to say. No, you are listening into that validation of what they're saying and the clarity of where they are. And you're not hearing the bite in the words, you are hearing what they are saying. My mother was famous on don't just hear what I'm saying. Don't just hear the words, just listen to what I am telling you. And sometimes when you're a kid, it's hard to do that because you just hear them and they're fussing at you and they sound like that wah, 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 wah. But as I matured and I got older and I could really listen to my mother and realize she wasn't just verbalizing and angry, or she was really placing value into me and even constructively giving me the criticism that I needed to be able to pivot my mindset, to change the action or the reactions that I was moving with. And so, in turn, as people, we have to do the same thing. We have to be willing to listen to the person, and vice versa. They have to do the same. And even if that person has not cultivated that beautiful skill in listening yet, imagine how dynamic it is when they're receiving it on the other end and you're mirroring what they should be placing into the space. Then it starts to become that two-way street. So it also means the next secondary key that we have to put in there is that we need to reflect back. You know, maybe paraphrasing or summarizing what you heard, meaning confirming the understanding. And it sounds like you're feeling this way because of XYZ that I did. Or did I misunderstand when you stated this? And all of a sudden the clarity comes in. And all of a sudden they realize that you were really listening and that I heard what you said, but I may have misunderstood what you said at that time. So let's get this back on track again. So reflecting back to the person allows them to see that you are moving in an integral space of empathy. I am in an integral space of really actively listening to you. So it means that we even are on a third secondary key that is so important that you hear me saying, and that's validation. Validate emotions. And so many times people just go into conversations or situations and they never validate emotions. And I know as a therapist, when people are speaking to me and they're telling me things and they're in a space and place of that hurt, or maybe they feel overlooked or they're struggling in a certain space and place, and I validate that feeling, you see upon their face how it even hits in that space in that heart, that somebody literally finally heard them, is hearing them. So acknowledging their feelings without judgment or sarcasm allows you and that person to feel heard and understood, valued, appreciated. It's just that kind of like semblance of that simpleness. But do you believe it or not, that's really not as simple as you think? Because as people in our brain, we're wired to like, oh, I got a good comeback for that. But it's reprogramming of that dynamic brain that we have to do. So, which in turn leads us into our second master key. And that second master key is emotional intelligence. Now, we've been speaking upon this for this season and we're building on this space and place. And even in my discussions on Thursday, they kind of, reflect a little bit of this as well, because we spoke about EQ. I spoke about EQ even a couple of days ago. I might even spoke about it a little bit even on this past Thursday show. So it means identifying and managing emotions. Identifying and managing emotions. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is literally the foundation for empathy. And many people don't believe me when I say that, but it's true. And if you even look at it scientifically, it's proven that this is the foundation for empathy. And understanding both your emotions and those of others even enables us to effectively communicate and effectively place the right words into what we're saying. And it also helps us in our connection. So the deliverance of it. So literally, as I'm sitting here talking to you, it makes me think of it this way. Uh, Empathy literally thrives when it's paired with our emotional intelligence on how we're bringing things in, which means recognizing where our emotions are stemming from, where the emotional responses are coming from. Are they appropriate? Are they in a timeful manner, or are we just in there just spewing out? Just literally just spewing out our emotions because our emotions are now controlling us, but we are not controlling them. And so in turn, anything and everything is at a high point. I always think about it like this. You can have a person and you can have a situation that can come about. And if you have a person that is really in control of their emotions and their emotions don't control them, they're even able to diffuse the most deadliest powder keg that's in that space. That literally they can say certain things and it just changes and removes that pin and it puts it back in that it cannot implode. And that's how, when you have control of your emotions and that EQ, that emotional intelligence, it allows you to walk in a different way. It has a different air, it has a different reverence, even. I've been told many times I've come into situations and I've been mediator to different situations, and the ones that I've been working with or had to work with, they always say after it, it's just like you brought some sort of calm into the space and the place of where we are and everything. It's because the emotions are not there. And sometimes you can hear things even as a therapist, and sometimes in your mind you think like, wow, that's heavy. But it's how you bring it into that space that allows it to be palatable. So, what are secondary keys that can help us into building that EQ? Well, one of the most powerful secondary keys, self awareness. Cut and dry, self awareness. Recognizing your emotional triggers, your biases that prevent you from even making good judgment or is clouding your judgment. See, whisperers, this particular component that I've been pouring into all week in different discussions. And one thing, when we become like self aware, it allows us to take an introspective look to see the areas we need to refine. So, when you say introspective, it goes into the second part of that secondary key. It means that self regulation, managing your emotional responses to remain calm, remaining compassionate, and open during those interactions. Because, see, when we don't have control of our emotions, they don't allow us to be present in that way. You are more focused into the way that you feel and how you've made me think, or how and it's always the you. But as they say, as you point your finger, there's three that are pointing right back at you. Because you may not realize the you is technically YOU. 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 And that wasn't a stuck. I didn't get stuck. I wanted you to hear it. I wanted it to vibrate at a decimal that could be received. So, are you actively listening to what I'm saying? Are you actively engaging in this space and place to receive the information that may help you to open the corridors, the hallways, and the secret compartments of your heart and your mind to be able to develop and to receive the frequency or the exchange rate of empathy in understanding others. Now, you see, Whisperers, you saw how I connected those keys and I brought that back together? Because that's how powerful this is. Because it even allows us to be socially aware as well. Because we have to pay attention to nonverbal cues such as tone or a voice or body language and facial expressions to understand unspoken emotions even. See, EQ goes into different places and spaces that are even deeper than we may even realize. You may not even realize that if you crossed your arms, and that could be just a posture that you do, that may be a trigger for someone else. So you may need to be reading facial, how their face is or their body language. And many people say that their face says everything they never want others to hear. Some people just have no poker face. And that could be very true. My mother was one. She never had a poker face. I knew if she liked or if she didn't like something, it just was like on her face. And I would be like, so what are you thinking? And she's like, oh, nothing. And I was like, no, you can't say that. What are you thinking? And she would start laughing. Because, see, we have to be aware of these things. We have to be cognizant of the way that we are moving and how we are even portraying ourselves and when we're trying to connect and build that emotional intelligence. We don't want to be off-putting to someone. We don't want to be offsetting because we have body language or facial expressions or tones that are, aggressive or even alienating because we're thinking about empathy. We're putting empathy in a space and a place. Empathy vibrates at a decimal that many don't hear. And many don't even know what it sounds like because it has been so replaced with reaction. Now, see, that's powerful. So it means that we have to lean into our third master key. And that is literally building emotional bridges through vulnerability. Now, this is an area that I want my gentlemen and some of you ladies to really lean into and hear me. Because true empathy flourishes when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and invite others to do the same. Now, why I said my gentlemen, a lot of times you feel that vulnerability is weakness. That's not it. That's not a weakness, not at all. Because, we can't always be stoic. We can't always feel like, oh, yes, I'm just, I don't have emotion. No, you're not a robot. You're not a robot. We're not created in that manner either. Even as men being strong heads of households, leaders, and different things that you're doing, you are able and you should realize that vulnerability connects us in a deeper and more authentic sense of self. I've had many clients, and especially gentlemen that I've worked with, that were kind of like void of vulnerability. And they couldn't understand why there seemed to be such a gap or a divide in the relationship. But as they got to sit with their partner in that counseling and to see that person in a different space and place and to really be able to listen and hearing what they're saying and the feelings that they're giving over and how they have felt that they are just void of emotion or any kind of feeling and that they don't even see when they need them to be there for them or how they would want to be there for them in certain circumstances. And all of a sudden it starts to change and it shifts because the person actually realizes that vulnerability is often mistaken as weakness, but it's not, because it's actually powerful. It builds that bridge and it builds on that so deep, that crevice that is there. It starts to fill then. And they see that it becomes like this secret power that builds upon all creativity of love and understanding. Whispers, this discussion, oof, I have to tell you, I love topics like this. And it sits so deep in my heart because I'm a person that moves with empathy, and I'm an empath in a lot of ways. I feel different things, and when I connect with different people and different energies. So empathy is something that is powerful to me, and it draws me in. And so many times when we share our authentic thoughts and feelings, we encourage others to be as transparent and uniquely themselves, that is overlooked, stepped over, and brushed aside. See, empathy comes in a different way. Empathy comes in and it shores up, it validates, it motivates, and it impacts in such a way that, woo, people are like moving with integral parts. So when we say this and we're developing on our skills, we have to be able to practice and connect to vulnerability. So when we connect, it means that we have to be authentic in this space. It can't be contrived. Let me just tell you, you will know if someone is really being just unauthentic and contrived when it comes to this. You even may hear someone that, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But I was thinking, you see how that is? See, empathy doesn't have a but and cut off and move on. We all have problems. I understand, and move on. It is a space that allows us to vibrate at a decimal that is received, and it's deafening. So you share your struggles and emotions honestly without fear of being judged. I tell you all, I come in here and I share a little bit of everything with you all. You know it. When I came back after my mother passed, I told you all it was okay to not be okay. And I told you that I was building and that my foundation was rocked. But I was so authentic and vulnerable with you. And I built upon that strength that I received every episode and every time you poured in and every time I came in and I developed and I went to things and I touched on different things. It's the same thing that we do. And I always tell you that we build our own safe zones of how we want to pour in to people or how we want them to pour into us. So when we're building in that authenticity, it means also that we have our healthy boundaries placed in a space and place as well. So empathy becomes a vibration that cannot be overstepped, just thrown to the side or disregarded as well. So then it means that we have to practice humility. And this is such a powerful practice. See, admitting when we don't have it all or the answers or we've made mistakes, humility facilitates personal growth. Humility creates a ripple effect of positive change, even. See, and that's what empathy brings in. And it also creates a safe space, a space that you know is going to be honored, a space that you know that there is going to be open dialogue by reassuring that the feelings and opinions are valued. Open dialogue that is powerful and keeps levels of communication free with just not this self expectation or I thought. How many times have you been in a situation and the person said, well, I thought? And you think to yourself, well, I should have communicated that a little better because maybe there wouldn't have been such, because we didn't communicate it. We didn't open ourselves up. So then we get to that I thought kind of situation, and then it's a problem. See, Whispers, I was saying this made me think of even the power of vulnerability and empathy would also reduce barriers. Because I'm thinking as I'm talking to you, and a lot of times I come in and I have my notes and different things, but that's why I love coming in and doing the discussion like this, because it allows me to even kind of bring other elements into it. Because what if it was all so scripted? I couldn't really go anywhere. But as I'm saying this, it really made me start thinking about how this even vulnerability and empathy would even reduce barriers, because they would help to even dismantle walls of, defensiveness, or even like that misunderstanding as I was speaking about, that it would build trust. And remember, I said it's like the bridge that we're building. So for us to have a great bridge, it has to have great foundation. It has to have good pillars. It has stabilizers in it. And that's how we're building upon this. And when we're open with others, they're most likely to be open and willing to meet us halfway, even let down their guard, which allows us to then strengthen the relationship. You know, empathy is not just about understanding others, it's about creating an environment where everyone feels valued and supported. It's not just a one sided, exchange, or how it comes into that rating, the exchange rate. Because like I said, when we talk about exchange, we may think of the stock market. So for us to have an exchange rate, you think about certain stocks, their shares may go at a higher value. So you know that purchasing in, you're going to get a high quality rate when you go to exchange that particular stock. And there are stocks that perform so well that you no longer can purchase or buy into them, because that is the value that they have now equivalated to that particular exchange or that stock rate. And when we think of empathy, we want empathy to have such a high value that someone that comes into our marketplace would have to make a hefty investment, that it would not depreciate. It could not be just simply extracted or thrown to the side. Or maybe they would just kind of forget that they had them. And so literally it just didn't have any worth. But see, empathy has value, it has worth. You know, Sometimes I think to myself, when we look at certain qualities, do we realize, or do we even see how powerful they really are? And sometimes when we meet people that are such a beautiful mirror of a certain quality, it brings forth such a feeling, and you just feel whole and seen and valued by them and everything. And they pour into you from a reservoir, not from like their little jar, their little, no, it's a reservoir, and they giving it over freely. And it's like just washing over you. It's a powerful thing. Whispers, you hear how it makes me feel when I'm speaking into this topic. And I tell you a lot of times that I can go on for hours with you all with regards to certain topics and certain things. And this is one of them that I really could lean into because I feel in this day and age and where we are, empathy is so needed. And people are crying and people are reacting in different ways in different spaces. And so we need to be compassionate and be empathetic as well. But it does not mean that you have to be a doormat. So empathy isn't that either. And I want you to realize that. And I want you to realize, even in your relationships, that empathy does not mean that you take on and you continue to be walked over, disregarded, devalued. No, because remember, empathy has a high exchange rate. And that's what I want you to take away with you today. That's what I want you to connect with when we speak on the exchange rate of empathy and understanding others. Sometimes we have to understand self so then it can pour out of the reserve onto others. So, you know, we could just go on, but I won't. And I told you I had some things I wanted to share with you all at the end of this discussion. And please make sure that you are subscribed to the Whispers Exchange because, as I said, I would love to share more because I could keep you here for another hour, even though I would like to. I'm going to actually share some bonus features from this discussion inside of the Whispers Exchange. So you can even hear certain things. And I have a couple of other keys that I want to give you that will be in there as well. So make sure that you subscribe to the Whispers Exchange. There's always a live link in the description box. And you can also make sure that you visit and subscribe or follow us over on Instagram at whispers in a bottle _podcasts. And you can even DM us the word newsletter when you're over there, and we'll make sure that you get a link as well. And if you ever want to, have me on your show, feel free to contact our publicist. His name is Trey. All of his information is always in our description boxes, even in our bio on Whispers in a Bottle _podcast and on Instagram. And I tell you, he's an awesome person to connect with as well. And I told you I had a couple announcements that I want to make and some great things I want to share because, like I said, sometimes we do things and we just blown away by things, but it's awesome to come in and share it with your community. So I was notified that I'm up for Business Person of the Year with Alignable. And I'm excited over it because I was Business Person of the Year in 2024 with Alignable. So this will be the second year. And right now I'm in second place. So hopefully, I'll come in first and I'll win it for 2025. So I'm really excited over that. And I'm really looking forward to it. And it's just new things that are coming into my space and my place. And I want to always be so grateful and humble for the opportunities that are being given over to me as well. I also wanted to share with you that if you really love the discussions that I'm having here on Podbean with you in our beautiful Whispers Lounge and all, please feel free to even connect with me because every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm live on Noom Vibe, the new Noom Vibe app. And literally, I'm having powerful discussions over there. It's an audio app. Some of you all may even be aware of Clubhouse. So it's kind of like a situation like Clubhouse, but not technically exactly like it at all. Feel free to tap into me over there. If you send me the word Noom, Noom, over on Instagram at whispers in a bottle _podcast, I'll make sure that you get an invitation so you can come over, hear the discussions that I'm having. This coming Thursday, next week, Thursday, I won't be there because I actually have an appointment that I have to keep, and it's actually at the exact same time as my show. So I won't be in there on Thursday. But if you connect with me, I'll make sure that you get that. And like I said, if you would like to work with me, with Trey, he's our publicist. You can email him even at treytheglue@gmail.com. So let me say this in closing. Uh, how do I want to close this episode? Let's see. You know, I think I want to say the ripple effect of like empathy is a currency that never devalues. And by listening with intent, that aim and purpose, it's going to actually help you to cultivate that emotional intelligence. And it'll help you to embrace vulnerability. And, we can create a profound connection and even a lasting impact, and even the impression that we would like to leave. That the exchange rate of empathy is infinite. Infinite. So, Whispers, I just appreciate you spending your life seconds with me. And I hope you have a beautiful weekend. And if you know someone that should be listening or hearing this powerful discussion or be a part of our show, please share it with them. Please invite them to come and be a part of our beautiful, community. So, with that being said, everyone, you have been listening to Whispers in a Bottle Grown Talk Cocktail Fridays. I am your host. My name is Sonia LeRae. I'm a lifestyle relationship counselor, fashion psychologist, and holistic health and wellness practitioner. And I hope you all have a beautiful weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and I'll see you back here again in our safe space. All right, guys, have a beautiful weekend.